I'm being joined tonight on the program by the former Deputy Governor of Kaduna State during the first term of Governor Nasir El-Rufai, Mr. Barnabas Bala-Bantex. He joins us on the show tonight from our Abuja studio. Thank you, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight on the program. And considering your enormous knowledge of some of the problems as regarding insecurity and some of the problems that we have in the country, I'm curious, Your Excellency, how did we get here?
Well, thank you very much, Shehu. Good evening and good evening, Nigerians. Well, it's quite a wide topic, and I don't think time will permit us to go through the details. But I'll say something that I've said repeatedly right from the time I was in the National Assembly and when I became the Deputy Governor of Kaduna State under Malam Nasir El-Rufai. One of the reasons that stares me in the face each time I look at the issues is the fact that we are not working very closely with the science, with research, and so we hardly capture quite correctly the causes and the driving factors of insecurity. What we do usually rather lazily is to fall within the realm of ethnicity, religion, regionalism, and politics, and leave what probably the path through which we'll get solution to the issues. For example, the nomadic problem, by those who have done adequate research, is something that countries of this world have gone through, even including Europe, for over 500 years. And the findings are there for any serious-minded person to read through and see how solutions were arrived at by these nations and why today they are peaceful. But we don't go that way. We usually find it easier for political reasons, to go along what is popular rather than what is based on adequate research. At the beginning of the crisis in Kaduna State, we realized and walked along the fact that climate change was playing a huge role. We read a lot of documents. We watched the documentary by Sarah Wiwa Jr. and so many other materials that informed us as to what the real causes of insecurity could be. But I think, in addition to this, for lack of time, we have also operated a nation where national boundary is totally insecure, so to say, and supported also by a treaty by West African countries, which the National Assembly has not taken a careful look at in order to make the necessary corrections and probably exit from it where it is not possible, because this treaty intended initially was to benefit trade, but at the end of the day, it's benefited terrorism more than the economy, more than trade between these countries. I expect the National Assembly to have acted very fast, because it was earlier in the day that the president and other Nigerians identified the fact that this terrorism was more exported than something that was created within. And so the next question was, how do people move in? Is it possible for Nigeria to accommodate and take care of the welfare of a number of people moving in and out of the country whose numbers you do not know? So these are some of the issues. There are quite a number of issues that we have looked at. But in Kaduna State, while I was Deputy Governor under Malam Nasir El-Rufai, these were the things we looked at. As soon as we came in Kaduna State, for example, we first took a cursory look at what the causes of the insecurity in the state were. And we discovered it was divided into three. In the central part, we had drug addicts who were just into gangs, killing people for no good reason. For that, we, of course, gave the police the necessary support, and in no time that was dealt with, and it is no more. In the forest of Sambisa and lining up the area of the entire Northwest, we discovered that cattle rustlers had a free day living within those forests. The governors of the Northwest, including Nigeria, came together in Kaduna and put some money together to flush these people out of the forest. But you see, in every step we took, we needed a national consensus. We needed a national agreement on the way to go. So it wasn't security apparently cannot be solved, through some segmented or through the actions of individual states without a national cohesion that gives a national definition of what the insecurity is, so that we find a national solution to it. This has been part of the problem. And so I look forward to a National Assembly that will sit up very quickly and deal with the issue of that treaty and exit it if necessary or make corrections, because I know other nations using the same treaty have behaved differently when it came to how people go in and out of their nations.
That's a very critical point that you've made about our borders and the movement around, because some of the governors have talked about the ECOWAS protocol. But let me ask you about the order of the president to the service chiefs to end the insecurity in the country in a matter of weeks. Do you see that as an uphill task?
Well, ordinarily I will feel so, but coming from the president himself, I will expect that he has had adequate discussions behind the scene. That was the summary of what we saw on television. But I believe that he has had a detailed discussion behind the scene with the military chiefs, who must have told him what their challenges are, if that task is going to be accomplished, and with the president having also made a promise or assured them that he will deal with the issues they require to make the fulfillment of that task possible. So it's difficult for me to go into that. But like you said in your introduction, the continuous killing that is going on, ordinarily to a man on the street like myself, I would think is a real uphill task. Because for quite some time, we appear to be moving behind instead of moving ahead of the terrorists, of these gangsters who have destroyed our economy, led probably by a cartel that the federal government apparently has not broken or has not identified properly. Because when you see kidnappers and you see the way they look, and you consider the billions that they've taken, that they've been used to ship to where God knows, you will know that there is a cartel behind the whole thing. And is now the biggest industry, even more than the banks. They've destroyed the economy. At the beginning of this government, there was so much emphasis on agriculture as the way out for the poor Nigerians to become rich. And indeed, it started happening. In Kaduna State, for example, we saw how the poor people, take, for example, the Muslims in the northern part of the state, paid for Hajj within a week, and paid in, completely, without, not in part, because with the interventions of the central bank, supported strongly by the government, farmers were doing well. But what do we have today? The farmers cannot access their farmlands. As if that is not bad enough, their economy is being destroyed. Whatever they have earned before this insurgency is also being mopped up through ransom. Luckily, in this country, we don't keep data, but I can imagine how many billions, have moved from very poor, helpless Nigerians. Money meant to empower them to live a meaningful life that has moved into the hands of kidnappers. Unfortunately, I think the federal government needs to do a little bit more or a lot more than what is happening, because we need to break through. We don't seem to know everything, quite frankly. But being security issues, I'm not in a position to say exactly what is happening behind the scene. But certainly I don't know enough. And I think that as a Nigerian, to some extent, I need greater knowledge than what I have. What does it take, for example, to trace this cartel? I'm sorry, I am sounding conclusive about the idea of a cartel. But truly, I feel that there are some people sitting out there who are benefiting from this and who will not let it go in a hurry. But if the president has passed that directive, I trust him. I trust his ability to provide what the service chiefs require. I don't want to see a situation where it is only at their exit, like in the case of the former chief of army staff, who at one time were told by him that insurgency was or had become a thing of the past, but who on his exit said that we needed 20 years. So how is this 20 years? How do we relate these 20 years with the few weeks that the president, who is wrong in this case? What facts were available to the outgoing, the former chief of, the former military chiefs who said we needed 20 years? What facts were they basing it on? How much do we need of those facts to make this marching order by the president successful?
Describe some very disturbing circumstances, scenarios there. And if you look at the scale of the killings and the attacks that we have seen in the past weeks and months, leading up to years also, and the kind of promises that the Buhari government and the APC made, does that put a question mark on the ability of the Buhari-led government to arrest or to deal decisively with this situation, knowing full well that hope is a very good instrument of any government in keeping alive the interest of a people in any idea that they are selling?
Well, this is a fairly straightforward question for me to attempt, to answer. First of all, I see government as a theater of so many people. For example, I've just mentioned to you what is entirely within the purview of the National Assembly to deal with, which is pending. For example, there has been a clarion call all over this country for state police, but there is no state government that is in a position to establish her own state police without the legislative, without dealing with the piece of legislation that provides for that. So what is the difficulty in the National Assembly saying yes or no and explaining to Nigerians why such a popular opinion is still lying down there within their purview? I have talked, for example, about the ECOWAS protocol, how clearly from every casual observer, it's a major issue. If Britain can exit from the European Union for lesser reasons than insecurity, I don't see why we should remain there. If we cannot correct the flaws that make it possible for Nigeria to become the home of everyone. In Kaduna State, there was every effort, to deal with the issues around the nomads. For example, the issues regarding their shrinking areas of grazing, the fact that their cattle had been rustled, the fact that their children had become criminals, so they said. And so we provided, well ahead of time, solutions to this problem, integrate these children into our schools, make the Fulanis to be able to have a place to stay, which is what some people call ranching or reserves or colonies or whatever you call it. But the question remains, and unless the National Assembly answers that question will remain a sore thumb in our effort towards insecurity. Can you plan for a number of people you do not know? You can't. And so the efforts of every state government, these governors apparently are doing their own best in their own way in different states, giving different solutions to the same problem. But the question remains, how can they solve the problem of a number of people they do not know, whose character they do not know, who the people accompanying them they do not know? We've talked a lot about the Libyans, the war in Libya, and how it has generated criminals that flow into the country behind the others. How do we, is there any sieve along the bar? Is there any sieve? If we are spending money in this country on anything, please, I believe that it is better spent on these issues. Are we sieving now that we have agreed to the fact, even by the president, that terrorism is more important than homemade? So when you look at these issues, and then the inability of the governors coming together through probably their forum, not only APC or PDP, every governor through the governors forum, to come up with what is a national consensus on the definition of the problem and to some extent the solution to it. You can
I would like us
again
to apologies to break into your thought. I'd like us to take our first break on the program, and I'll allow you to explain a bit more on some of the issues that are on the table tonight for discussion. Let's take a break now, everyone. Up next, our conversation will be on solutions of the issues of insecurity in the country. In the wake of attacks on President Buhari's orders, how do we silence the guns? We get the concluding thoughts of my guest, the former governor of Kaduna State, Bala-Bantex. Also, don't forget that we go to Imo State, the politics and the planned demolition of former Governor Okoroche's properties. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. My guest tonight, a former Deputy Governor of Kaduna State, Mr. Bala-Bantex, has been speaking to us on the program from our Abuja studio on the security situation in the country and the way forward. Our final moments with him now. Let me get your quick thoughts on some of these issues. When the president ordered a shoot on sight to those carrying AK-47 and criminal elements in the country, in practical terms, what does this mean to those operating in the forest?
Well, is it only about those within the forest? Before now, this problem has lingered on from the beginning to a large extent. The president's order is in line, is correct, is expected. Some people, including myself, will say that I wish it came even a lot earlier because under the law, I don't want to go into the legal issues surrounding this, but I do know enough that it is totally illegal for somebody to be seen carrying arms unlicensed in the name of protecting himself, unless the country has come up with amendments to the law to allow Nigerians. After all, in the United States, people carry arms are allowed. If we've gotten that way, we should tell everyone. But there was no reason why people, in spite of the difficulty of their vocation, to have been allowed to carry arms for this long, going through farmers, and who would better have been managed through the kind of relationship that existed many, many years in the past, where it was a symbiotic relationship between the farmers and the nomads. So it's a welcome idea. The legal experts will say probably the loopholes that may be there. I hope there wouldn't be, because anything coming the way of stopping people who have the capacity to kill others simply because they are armed, freely armed, should be encouraged by everyone. Like I said, I only wish it had come a lot earlier. And for anybody, for any Nigerian, to support this idea. Look, some of us that have lived very closely with the Fulanis do know that there is a difference between the nomads and the criminals that accompany them. Most of these guns are not really. These guns are carried usually by the criminals that accompany the herders, because first of all, this criminality, you can understand that this criminality cannot be driven by somebody traveling with his entire fortune, the flock of his cattle. It must be somebody who has nothing to lose. And this is the way we have identified it. And so the government is right, and I believe that that's the right way to go.
All right. I just have a few minutes, Your Excellency, with you, and I have just about 2 or 3 questions. I don't know how we can quickly tackle them. But let me task you a bit on the matter of Kaduna State. You were in office, and you told us earlier how you and Governor El-Rufai looked into the issues of the insecurity there. But things have not abated. We saw 12 people abducted today and an airport where we have military formations just around that place. It's become a very insecure and unsafe place. What is happening?
Well, like I said earlier, Kaduna is not living in isolation from other states. Kaduna is part of Nigeria. In fact, right in the center of Nigeria. So there is no amount of effort that can solve the problem completely, because these bandits move. If Kaduna State were to be walled, we will have a wall around it. Probably, I'm sure, with the steps that the government has taken right from 2015 to date, I don't think there will be any banditry in Kaduna State, because the idea there was not only to apply scientific solution to the problem, but give succor to those who deserve succor and punish those who deserve to be punished. This has been the approach. But unfortunately, Kaduna State has been in the news for the wrong reason. Do remember that Kaduna is the center from where most states are, connected. And Kaduna State also, anything in Kaduna seems to be of serious interest to the media. But otherwise, Kaduna is doing its best. The military there is having all the cooperation. When we talk about, for example, security funds, I hear about Nigerians complaining how governors take security funds for themselves. But in Kaduna State, I remember, I don't know, I hope that is the case with all other governors. The governor has no contact whatever to a single kobo of the security votes. It's in the purview and handled by the SSG. And these are monies that we used in those days and is still being used to empower the military to apply all the necessary technology, towards solving the problems as they arise.
I think
so this is the issue. On the issue of the kidnapping in Kaduna.
Just a moment. I think the good way to end the conversation with you is to get your view on a very important matter, and I'd like you to probably touch on it in like 30 seconds. On the issue of the bandits, negotiation has come up for discussion, and whether or not we should engage in any negotiation with some elements that have been tagged, some of them terrorists, in exchange for the abductees, which some in other climes they will say, no, they are not going to negotiate with terrorists. And on the other hand is the talk of amnesty, blanket amnesty. Sheikh Gumi had told Channels Television that we should no longer call these guys bandits, that these are nomadic herders who are fighting for their survivors. Just in 30 seconds, if you give us your view on whether or not we are handling this with kid gloves, or we are fanning the flame of these crooked acts of criminality.
Well, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not driven by sentiments. But for the first time, let me say quite frankly that Gumi has fallen out of target. I mean, he's fallen out of... in fact, for me, Gumi's statement that is also a show of our failing situation, because when non-state actors are given the privilege to talk this way, rather than talk to authority and advise authority in their privacy and so on over such very sensitive issues, it is a mark of failure as far as I'm concerned. Because the issues Gumi is raising, some of them have touched at the very core of the issues that bring about insecurity. Fortunately for him, people are battling with how to survive, and they are not looking at the details of what he said. But even in a very peaceful environment, some of the comments can spark a lot of... well, let me just go straight to the point. Negotiating with people who have destroyed the economy of thousands of Nigerians, who have made life so totally useless, and who are still doing so, and whose number continues to increase, and who are doing everything they are doing in order to empower themselves, make themselves richer than the ordinary people put together. You can't talk about negotiation. In any case, the money they earn from the acts of terrorism, I don't think the government is in a position to even give them a reward that is more than what they get, because you can only negotiate from a position of strength, either military strength or economic strength. In the case of the military strength, we look helpless, but we hope with the president's order we will be better as we move ahead. But in terms of economy, they are now richer than all of us put together. They've taken billions and billions from people's small savings through ransom. Now, when people make this kind of money, and you want to call them to the table to negotiate, first of all, they are driving desire. It's not ideological, unlike the Boko Haram thing, which was ideologically driven. These are people who are just looking for money. So
Your
you must
Excellency,
negotiate
we're out of
with
time.
them if you have more money to give them.
All right.
Than what they are getting through this insensitive killings of Nigerians. So negotiation, I believe, is not my personal opinion alone. I believe it's the popular opinion among people who mean well for this country. Is not the way to go. Let's just be patient.
Your Excellency, we are obviously out of time, but I must sincerely thank you. Yeah, former Deputy Governor of Kaduna State, Architect Bala-Bantex, thank you so much indeed for your thoughts tonight. We really appreciate your time with us.
Thank you.